Larry Dwyer, the fullback, he caught the midnight mail train from Orange, then walked to the ground to play for Australia. Michael Liner, you're now forming the honour guard. Tell us about the atmosphere at ground level.
It's definitely pretty electric. They've just started playing a bit of rock and roll music down here, but they don't need that, Gordon. It's a fantastic atmosphere down here, and we're all ready for a wonderful game of rugby, particularly the ex-All Blacks and the ex-Wallabies down here.
And you're alongside, I saw there, your old inside centre from the Grand Slam, one Mark Ella.
Yes. I'm sure he doesn't like the word old, but I'm beside him anyway.
Mark Ella recently introduced into the International Rugby Hall of Fame, the first and only Australian to go into that Hall of Fame. So we're now awaiting the two sides, and I guess a lot of very familiar faces across the way from you too, Michael, forming this guard of honour.
Yes, there is. There's some that I don't recognise, but there are some that they're sort of in much friendlier uniforms today, Gordon.
Well, we're just looking at the Australian team in their dressing room. Sean Fitzpatrick is just awaiting the instruction to take the field. You recall last year, Chris Handy, that the All Blacks snuck out early, about 5 minutes early.
Yeah, they might have a few tricks to play today as well. I don't think they'll be caught unawares as they were in Auckland last week. And the Wallabies stormed their line for the first 15 minutes of the match.
So the Bledisloe Cup, this is surely the last amateur competition between the two nations for this famous trophy, donated in 1931 by the then Governor-General of New Zealand. Plenty of Kiwi support here this afternoon, but I suspect you'll hear a huge eruption as the Australian side, led by Phil Kearns, takes the field. There's Sean Fitzpatrick. Today, his 31st international as skipper, Craig Dowd, who for a long time was in the shadow of Steve McDowell, the former Olympic wrestler. And as you can see, the grass surface here at the stadium is fast and in excellent condition. Well, the only change to New Zealand's lineup comes in the forwards. Number 7, Michael Jones, relegates Josh Kronfeld to the bench. There are 10 survivors from last year's loss here to Australia. Can Lomu maintain his strike rate of 8 tries in his first 8 test matches? Fitzpatrick plays his 18th Bledisloe Cup match. Mike Brewer. And now the Australian side. They've had an excellent preparation. Matt Burke has overcome those hamstring worries. And the two great centres. Yes, those two centres, numbers 12 and 13, they made their test debuts at 19 years and 70 days. Tim Horan, Little, 19 years and 71 days. Both playing their 38th international this afternoon. John Eales and Phil Kearns, who made his test debut at Eden Park. And Steve Merrick. Well, he was a lively performer last week, and he's had some tuition, as Chris mentioned, from Peter Carson.
Peter Carson, one of the great Bledisloe Cup winning halfbacks, played in 2-1-2. They can't do much better than that.
Just the one change to the Wallaby lineup, Chris. At prop, veteran Ewan McKenzie is in for suspended Dan Crowley. Fullback Matt Burke is over that hamstring strain, while the pack is primed for more aggression and ball control. Only 8 players survived from last year's winning cup team. So now the two sides lining up, and we're now standing by for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of victory in the Pacific. The last post will be played by Jared Pendlebury. He's a school prefect at the King's School, and he has won an Australian Defence Academy scholarship, and he wishes to become a fighter pilot. But the King's School, with Newington College, the oldest rugby school in Australia. Nearly 100 old boys have represented New South Wales and Australia. The spirit of the Anzacs. The celebration of victory in the Pacific. A moment's silence now. Jared Pendlebury from the King's School, and now we'll stand by for the national anthems with the 60-member band from King's, drawn from boys in years 9 to 12. And 250 of the King's School's 550 boarders are here. Phil Kearns will have an Achilles operation at the end of the season, so we're almost ready for the Centenary Test match here at the Sydney Football Stadium in 1995, just 92 years after the first ever international between the two sides. Well, we've been blessed with absolutely delightful conditions. The two sides have had excellent build-ups, just the one change in each 15. Michael Liner has rejoined us now from the Guard of Honour. He was right in the front stalls as the players came out.
Yes, Gordon, and as I said down there, what a wonderful atmosphere. Damien Smith certainly charged up, almost ran over Phil Kearns on the way out, and it's going to be a really fiery start, I think. The Australians are ready for a big one.
Well, I hope he can run over Jonah Lomu and not the other way around, Chris.
We saw last week Damien Smith really marking Jonah Lomu very closely. In fact, he was almost offside half the game, so keen he was to close that gap down.
And now Zinzan Brook to lead the haka. Protect me, be wary, behold the brave man who has caused the sun to shine again. That's the message from New Zealand. And Sean Fitzpatrick has elected to run from the left after winning the toss, which means Australia will kick off. Fitzpatrick made his test debut for the Baby Blacks, the Baby All Blacks. The Cavaliers suspended after their tour of South Africa, and that was right back in 1986. And since the end of 86, there have been only 2 hookers who've taken the field in a test match for New Zealand. Fitzpatrick and Norm Hewitt, who came on against Japan in the World Cup. Our referee today is 41-year-old Belfast headmaster Brian Sterling. His test debut was back in 1989 at Twickenham, when England defeated Fiji by 58-23. Today's test match, his 11th international. And he's one of only 5 referees to have made a double send-off in a test. So Matt Burke preparing for the kickoff. Our touch judges today are Ray Megson and Wayne Erickson. Robin Brooke, Joe Roth juggled the ball. New Zealand have it here. That's the start they were looking for, and Mertens angling across towards touch. Matt Burke, an early test for his hamstring. He's stretching well. Mertens, Burke into the tackle. Midway 22 and halfway. Rifling across to the open side over Roth's head. Tremendous kick by Andrew Mertens.
Well, it was pretty obvious early that they were going to try and move Matt Burke around and test that hamstring, because if he's not up to the task, it forces a double change in that Australian team of Roth back to fullback and Campese onto the field. And I think you'll see a little bit of this bringing forward Burke and Mertens controlling right from the start.
Ten-metre line, Australian territory. Brooke got it. Good space here for New Zealand. Lomu, an early touch. Smith comes at him. 10 metres out. They couldn't put him on the ground. Try. Frank Butts. 2 minutes from the end last week. 2 minutes from the start this week.
Well, I was talking to Damien Smith just before the game, and he said how difficult this man Jonah Lomu is to tackle. Quite different to Vaianga Tuangamala. He let him get outside him, and then he's gone high. He tried to go high last week around the collar, but this bloke is strong, and Butts came up in support. Jones was there as they put him on the field instead of Kronfeld to do. Exactly how they'd like to open.
And who said you cannot score tries from set pieces? They've done it from the first line out.
Walter Little, ball came straight to Walter Little. He just passed the ball straight to Lomu, gave him the necessary 5 metres that he needed. Had a step off the right foot that got around Smith. Smith came again with some of his teammates, but my God, how do you stop this guy? At the end, he was still standing. Joe Roth tried to tackle him as well. He was still standing.
Well, you don't stop him by how Damien Smith tried, by grabbing his collar and trying to. That should be a high tackle because it's obviously high, but also ineffective.
So Mertens pushing that one out to the right, but a dramatic start for New Zealand. Jonah Lomu.
It was exactly the same way that the All Blacks started against England. I think it was probably a similar sort of move, although the pass went astray. They're trying to give Lomu space, and when he has space, he's almost impossible to bring down.
And they won that line out against the throw, and Robin Brooke did very well as he started last week in Auckland.
And Robin Brooke again there, wrapped up by Manu, but it's been a dream start for New Zealand. Australia had it last year at the football stadium with Jason Little's try after 17 seconds. This is Burke. It's a probing kick. Osborne doesn't get his touch. Bowen, fingertip control. Referee says play on. And the mark awarded for Zinzan Brooke. Well, I think Scotty Bowen was convinced that the tackle wasn't just a touch late.
Well, I don't agree either with the referee. He kicked well. Scotty Bowen usually does delay his kick right until the last minute. but he'd completed it. That player had the ability to avoid him.
It was late and dangerous for mine.
So the touch midway 22 and halfway. Zinsan Brook, who we've seen his wonderful all-round skills in the Cathay Pacific Hong Kong Bank Sevens over many years. 12 from halfway. New Zealand, after that early try, coming just after 90 seconds. Knock on, says the referee. We'll have a scrum 15 metres in. A lot of wrestling in the early lineouts. And now a good test here, Chris, for the Australian scrum.
It is. I like the look of the Australian scrum with Harthill and also McKenzie. Great advantage there in the pack weights.
Eels. Brook down on the loose ball. Australia didn't control it. Wasted opportunity.
Opportunity missed. We saw that lack of poise at the crucial moment last week give the Australians a lot of trouble, and it again raises its head.
Well, the Australians certainly rattled, and why wouldn't they be after that smashing first up try by Jonah Lomu? They haven't found any composure so far. New Zealand call for a four-man lineup. Ian Jones at the back with Eels. Brook, outside arm. Referee says it was okay. Lomu again. It's a nightmare for Smith. Rough across. They still can't put him down. Australian defence is regrouped. Mertens. Here comes Wilson. Burke is there. Tapped back by the New Zealanders. Tim Gavin picking up the rebound. Here's Merrick. Australia held up off the ground. It hadn't gone down to a ruck. And New Zealand with the scrum feed.
Same move as the try was scored before by Lomu. They had extra men in the back line with the loose forwards there, but Little just cutting them all out straight to Lomu.
Loose pass, Wilson. Roth got in. Now bunts again. That's Michael Jones, 10 metres out. Hands in the ruck, Australia. Killing the ball.
Last week, New Zealand lacked the man in support of Jeff Wilson on the wing. He was closely marked by Joe Roth, but Kronfeld had been dropped from the team because they needed a man out there when he got stood up, and that time Bunce, the closest man, really got in, and then Jones was right beside him.
So New Zealand leading Australia by 5 points to 0. So it was a nervous start by Andrew Mertens with his attempt at the conversion from the other side of the field.
There's very little wind down on the field, but up high, Mertens will have this coming from right to left. From his right to left, the wind comes over the top of the stand.
He's hooked it badly.
There was that, I don't know if he struck it too well, it didn't look like it, but that was the way the wind was taking the ball anyway, so it accentuated that.
So Australia can breathe a little more freely. But New Zealand just dominating the football at the moment. Wilson. Supported by Mertens, just 22 years of age. And we saw that sort of punt kick from him in the high veld in South Africa during the World Cup.
And that's what it's all about, territory. He knows if he can kick it out of play deep. It's one of those rules that needs overhauling because it's cheap yards.
New Zealand having all the territory and all the possession. They're going to be hard to hold out for much longer unless Australia start getting some possession.
So Bowen with the restart. War comes through. Eels got it. Here's Merrick. But things just not falling Australia's way. Kick out on the full. We come back for a line out 30 metres out.
Well.
Cleverly cleared, but the referee says no, offside.
Well, Ian Jones, who did well at the back of the line-out, was Obviously in front of the player receiving the ball, and it spilled back to him again. Clearly offside.
So Scott Bowen just looking to settle things down for the Australians. They'll have the throw into the line out in New Zealand's territory. Quick one. Closing it up. It's a free kick for Australia, not a penalty. So they can't kick this one out on the full. They'll try and keep it in hand here. Kearns. Straight into Fitzpatrick. 10-metre line. Bowen. Here's Manu. He was met by Brooke War Mauls. Tim Gavin got it. And Harthill. And McKenzie is there with Kearns. Much better build-up, Australia. Horan. Can't get away there from Mike Brewer. Back rower. Up in defence. Here goes Merrick. He ran into trouble. No halfback here. Roth has come in. War. He wants a charge. Merrick. New Zealanders loitering offside. Here's Smith. Shoulder to shoulder. 5 metres out.
Good tactic there by Australia, varying the line-out throw-in by taking a quick one. New Zealand caught unawares, just trying to change the tempo of the game, got the penalty, and then some good play, particularly from Warwick Hall. We saw him drive forward twice there.
Hasn't he been energetic, Michael, using his arms and shoulders? Just needs to adjust his body height a little bit and he'll have it all together.
Certainly has been, Chris, and
that was Robin Brooke again. Beautifully timed jump from him. It's now 10 metres out from New Zealand's goal line. They're going the open side here. This is Joe Roth. Here's a chance. It took a few to get him down. Inside the 22. Merrick. Harthill was in the way, we could say. The backs wanted it. And New Zealand all offside there. They have been loitering around the rucks and mauls, getting in Australia's way, and the referee takes a firm hand.
Good pressure applied by the Wallabies, and Harthill, having found the ball in his hands quite surprisingly, did exactly the right thing. He went to the old friend, the sideline, and hit it up hard and retained possession.
Number of the rucks here, the All Blacks are fairly cunning. They're making tackles, and when they get up to come back on side, they're taking it very slowly and getting in the way of Steve Merrick, and I think that's what happened there. Steve was looking to pass the ball. There was 2 All Blacks in the way, not for the first time, and Steve had to find Mark Harthill there. Almost a professional foul, I think.
So Matthew Burke now. There was a suggestion that maybe he is favouring his right leg slightly. That's not a problem because his hamstring injury was on the other one. They certainly have moved him around in the early stages, but he was striking the ball well here yesterday. This to close the gap to just 2 points. No joy for the Wallabies. It's New Zealand by 5-0 in the Centenary Test match. We've had a lot of movement in the game, a lot of excitement. A thunderous start by New Zealand. Australia coming back into it now. Horan. 10-metre line. Backing his pace. Nice charge there by Horan. Merrick wants it. Bowen. Willio. Got away from 2. Quick ball needed. War again. Having a charge into Fitzpatrick. Kearns was there. Here's Manu. Well, they're playing rugby league at the moment, the Australians. Oh, that was a big tackle. McKenzie might be lucky to get this one back. He does. Robin Brooke trying to get in the way. Bowen. He'll enjoy that one.
Scotty Bowen applauding his forwards as the crowd applaud him for a very deft touch. Nicely weighted ball. keeping the pressure on the All Blacks, and this is the only way to stop them spreading it wide, is to keep them under pressure.
Interesting tactics down here on the ground. All Blacks trying to move it wide, and the Wallabies getting back into the game with a lot of forward pressure. So just interesting tactics, quite the opposite, both teams.
Those comments from the Taranaki pig farmer, Dave Loveridge. Outside arm. So that's a free kick to Australia. Now a chance for the Wallabies to hit back. Burns just settling things down again. He takes it up. 10 metres from the goal line here. Kearns still has it. Very close here. Australia want it. Merrick. Bowen. Horan. Roth took the ball standing still. Merrick again. And Bowen. Merrick supports. 10 metres out. No half back. New Zealand playing the ball on the ground. That's Kearns. Can they hold on here, the All Blacks? They were up offside. Again, a professional penalty there. It was desperation time.
Great sustained pressure and control of the ball in those pressure situations. The Wallabies will be very happy with that, because they're not losing that poise that they did in the game in Auckland. And forcing the penalty, they'd love to try that.
Well, the worry here for the Australians is they must convert this pressure into points. They have a chance now. New Zealand 5, Wallabies 0. So Matt Burke about to place this ball 5 metres in. It's a very difficult shot. He favours the kicking tee. But I'd like $1 for every shot at goal you've had here at the stadium, Michael.
Yes, it's not an easy shot, and the wind is a bit hard to judge. It's a fairly strong southwester, which was coming from over coming straight towards the ball, towards the post, but it tends to bounce off the other side of the grandstand there and come back. So we saw from his last kick that it went pretty straight. So straight at the black dot, Matthew.
Coming back beautifully. I think he was listening.
He still had to execute it, Gordon. A wonderful kick by Matthew Burke. That'll give his confidence a lot of good. And also provide the carrot in front of the forwards to keep them going with that enthusiasm.
And they only need a little carrot because they're going pretty well up front. Nice to see Kearns and McKenzie and Hartill leading from the front, as they should do.
42,000 fans here at the Sydney Football Stadium. Merrick gets the mark. A nasty one in the sun that time. Here's Bowen looking for support. Merrick again to offer Hengarway. Manu. Australian forwards there as one. Knock back. That was Bowen. Again, the problem with the sun. The pass landing in front of him, but he kept his cool.
Work by those loose forwards, just taking that step forward. Daniel Manu just going so well. Possession just sneaking back in Australia's favour. They've got to keep it going.
There's Jones, wrapped up by Willie O. Muntz knocks on. Towed through by Horan. Referee plays advantage. This is Osborne. No advantage, he says. Some would argue with that. Willie offer Hengarway. Down. Just outside the 22.
After the tackle on Michael Jones, which was a good one. It looks like he might have a shoulder or a head injury. It's taking a while to stop the head from spinning.
Australia a man down then as the scrum forms 30 metres out from their goal line. Controlled at the back by Gavin. All Black players were offside there. You have to be bound on in the scrum until the ball comes out. Players just holding on with their hands.
Very good clearance by Scotty Bowen there. That's a good hit. There's the one where Willie got injured. But just getting back to that clearance, it was a good pass by Steve Merrick, and Scotty Bowen giving a good clearance to the halfway. That'll give them both a lot of confidence.
Mike Brewer at the back of the line now. Butts, well, watching the man. They've turned him over. Basham. Little, taken by Jonah Lomu. Smith turned his back. Brook, try, Mertens. And it was that man, Lomu, who again caused the havoc.
You called it, Gordon. Lomu being able to stand in the tackle and unload. The support, where they were looking for the support, and they got it in spades. There's black jerseys all over the place. He came inside, he fended. Smith eventually pulled him down, but not soon enough. And Brook is having a whale of a game. Picked up Mertens, and this boy can go.
The great pass from Walter Little to Jonah Lomu once again. He was tackled, falling to the ground, and gave it to Lomu, who just stood in the tackle again. And he is having a wonderful game, Brook, isn't he, Chris? And you're right, he can run, this Mertens, and he dots it down under the post there. Gee, I thought Australia had the advantage there with Frank Bunce juggling the ball in midfield there. Australia swooping on him, but the ball came out very quickly, and Walter Little did very well.
And Mertens converted his own try. So New Zealand now in a very encouraging position for them. 12-3, 9-point advantage, 2 tries. This is Fitzpatrick. They'll play with a lot of confidence now. It's uphill for the Wallabies. Mertens. What a wonderful talent he is. And what do you say about that kick? Taking play to the 22.
Well, I think after the try, he feels like he can probably do just about anything on this oval. His first time he's been here. Wonderful kick, that one.
The report on Willie Offahengawa is he did cop a head knock. He also has a bad shoulder. They've got David Wilson warming up on the sideline. They don't expect Willie to give in quite that easily.
Eels to Merrick and Burke. That was his left foot. Just short of halfway, Wilson. Roth wants it. Joe Roth has been providing extra cover on Jonah Lomu. In the set pieces, Australia has had 2 wingers covering him. So it really is panic stations when Jonah Lomu gets the ball.
Be interesting to see if the New Zealanders pull the same move that they've done twice already. That is Walter Little to Jonah Lomu. I don't see any reason why not. It's worked twice so far.
Here's Bowen.
It's got to be stopped in the forwards, so therefore there has to be more contesting the ball. The only way you can really break down this use of Lomu out wide is by affecting how the passage of that ball. When you get them on the ground and you make the tackle, you've got to do all the hard work right there.
Bishop out wide again into space. Bunce offloading to Jones. Australia stretched the gain. And New Zealand, well, spoiling themselves. It was a very promising situation. Not staying on their feet, going over the ball.
Comment's very true there, Chris. You summed it up in one. They've got to dry up the ball flow to Lomu if they're going to stop him. And that starts in the forwards. They can get fractured ball through to the halves and put them under pressure. It won't get out to Lomu.
So Australia, and there's Dan Crowley, the suspended prop forward who played at Eden Park last weekend. Australia up into the attacking zone. They've been inside the 22, but only 3 points resulting for them. Eels again. This is Little. Caught by his namesake. Bowen. 22-metre line. Here's Merrick. Smith. Willie O. He's made 10. Can Australia control the possession? Well, I just wonder if they wanted a bit of advantage there. They'll have a shot for goal. But we've seen quite a few, inverted commas, professional fouls by the New Zealanders, and it's working for them. So the score here, New Zealand 12, Wallabies 3.
That's it.
Twice as much ruck ball as New Zealand are winning, 17-8. in fact, and it's really starting to tell. They're controlling the ball well because the support player is making it to the ball carrier. And Warwick War has been outstanding a couple of times there, and Scotty Bowen got caught. He got there really quickly, just as New Zealand looked like they were going to pull for the ball.
Also, I think, Chris, that the All Blacks seem to be lining out in defence more. They're seeming to place a lot more importance on the defence rather than trying to win the ruck ball.
Well, that's a very bad miss for Australia. They desperately needed that one. Margin remains at 9 points. Paul McLean, the chairman of the Australian selectors, in the foreground in the Australian huddle. "25 minutes of play elapsed, and New Zealand with 2 tries to Lomu and Mertens, and they've been beauties too. Jones is there with Eels. Gavin. Sandbrook trying to spoil it. The strength of Tim Gavin coming to the fore there. It's on the ground. Now, because New Zealand was ruled moving forward there, it went down to a ruck. They get the scrum feed. Gavin was driven back. Some great work there by Sandbrook. Mertens. And again, a beautiful torpedo punt kick. This is Burke. From inside his 22, off the side of his boot. Brook. Straight into Burke. Take that, he says. Now, Sandbrook didn't release. He had no supports. Forwards very slow to get there. Penalty Australia.
I wonder if the drop goal went through his mind, Gordon. A little bit far out, I think. It was an interesting decision by Sandbrook there. He had 3 Australians in front of him and decided to take them on. Didn't have a lot of support with him.
Bowen gaining just over 20 metres. 30 out. Yes, no-nonsense stuff from Sandbrook, but he was lacking support. That's why he held on.
Phil Kearns down here for Australia in back play. Appears to be a hand injury.
Warwick War also down, so 2 of the tight forwards. Matt Burke just stretching his hamstring as well, but he looks okay.
Whilst on injuries, Timmy Horan, although he has stretched out on a number of occasions, has been constantly keeping his knee warm. He hasn't been able to train fully throughout the week, so there's a little question mark over the number 12.
Taken by War at the front. But he didn't want to go into touch.
Got to really fight to get that ball down. And if you're too high, your body height's up too high, you don't get it down. You should be realising that close to the line there, you start heading downwards, laying the ball back behind you for the support players, because he had plenty there.
We're inside New Zealand's quarter. Robin Brook again at the front, doing a lot of damage there. Mertens. Burke, great skills. Burke peering after this. It was knocked on. Australia needs a try here. Horan. 3 men waiting outside. Play on. 3 on 3. Little. Referee says it's a penalty. No, a free kick. What's he doing here? Australia didn't retire 10 metres. Little claiming that he was interfered with after he kicked it. New Zealand took the free kick from the mark.
Plenty of pressure on the referee here. He's calling play on a lot. Well, it's probably a pretty fair way to play this game. Both teams trying to be a little obstructive after the initial play of the ball. New Zealand off the hook. Timmy Horan choosing that time to take it forward.
Knock on by Merrick. Brooks slips it back to Dowd and Basham. Referee playing advantage here from the Australian knock-on. Mertens. Roth on his side of halfway. The ACT 19-year-old coming through on Brook. He couldn't hold on. His brother did. Now this is Osborne. Taking play over the halfway line. New Zealand have it by 9.
You just get the feeling that New Zealand are scrambling better than the Wallabies. When they come under pressure, a couple of the boys are just stepping forward. Robin Brook, Zinzan Brook, just stepping into the gap.
Tim Gavin did well there at the front. And has Australia managed to get this one back? New Zealand not staying on their feet, says referee Brian Sterling, the headmaster from Belfast.
New Zealand's defence is outstanding at the moment. I just was counting at a ruck before. There was 7 New Zealanders in the line to Australia's 5. Australia, we saw Jason Little doing a little chip kick there. Maybe that's the option. It's just Jason didn't have a lot of support there going through, and the New Zealand cover was pretty good. But they seem to be very flat with the wingers up as well. Maybe some sort of dummy switch to bring the defence up, and a little chip over might turn the New Zealanders around.
Inside the last 10 minutes before the break. It's been New Zealand's half. Manu at the back. Brook. Here's Lomu. Little goes low. And got in. This is Walter Little and Horan. Knock on, though, says the referee.
There was a knock on, and the referee, who we thought had missed it, picked it up, was playing advantage. None came. Australian front row got a hit. Must take it to the New Zealanders. Set up that scrum better.
Basham coming through and going through the 90 degrees.
Nice aggressive contact needed.
The forwards have really got to provide the platform for the backs. Kiwis have done that. Upsetting Australia scrum here. This is Merrick. He follows. He's a live wire.
Well done, Steve Merrick. And there's that little space in behind the defensive line of New Zealand. Good little chip.
Singleton's favourite son.
Well, if there's a place that you can attack, Lomu is in behind him with that kick. Steve Merrick doing good work. Now they need better work to keep this ball and pressure on.
War into Brook. Bowen. Smith. Smith. Yes! Sensational try by Damien Smith. The Wallabies are back in it. That was determination plus.
Damien Smith, you little Ronnie Coote, hit the line and busts through enormous defence from the All Blacks. Just like Jonah Lomu received a beautiful pass inside from Scott Bowen, and there was nothing going to stop him. Frank Butts argues that this is a double movement, but unfortunately he doesn't realise that the law says that you must play the ball immediately, and if in doing so you can place the ball over the line, you're allowed to do it. He hit the fullback Osborne and steamrolled him. You can see it as clear as day, as could Brian Sterling. Damien Smith tried.
Lovely little pass by Scott Bowen inside. The defence looking for Willie O. But Damien Smith, he's beaten 6 New Zealanders and taken one over with him. What a wonderful effort.
I think you're being a bit unkind to him there, Michael. I counted almost 8.
I don't care how many, Gordon. He got the ball over the line there. He's paying the price now. Maybe just a little bit winded when he fell on the ball there. But fantastic determination by Damien Smith. That's all it was, just sheer determination. And great timing onto the pass.
Well, you mentioned when you were forming the Guard of Honour, Michael, that his eyes, they told the story. And that charge by him really did.
Certainly did, Gordon. That's how he ran out onto the field. Let's hope we see a little bit more of that.
So
just
Burke,
what Australia needed at that stage too.
This to pull New Zealand's lead back to just 2. which he does. So, after New Zealand really taking hold of the game in the middle stages of the half, Australia has come back off the ropes. There's the restart. Up in the sun. That's Gavin. Australia just forced back by New Zealand. And the All Blacks offside.
Robin Brooke appears to be coming round on the tackle and lying on the ground and trying to use his hands to come back.
8-2 the penalties in favour of Australia, and look at that loose pace statistic. So there's enough possession there, and that tells it. 12 points down, now 2 points down, and more ball, more control, more points.
Well, it's been played at frenetic pace. Fastest game we've seen in Australia this year. That was Brooke, and jumping off shoulders. Brooke was up in the air, but he had his hand on an Australian shoulder. There was also some obstruction on John Eales.
Josh Gronfield just warming up on the sideline here. Maybe Zinzan Brooke may be injured.
Rifled into touch. 40 metres out from the New Zealand goal line. So the last 15 minutes in this match will be critical. Such has been the pace of the first 40. Gavin again. That's Manu, number 7. Now Australia have done well. Warwick War is there. New Zealand players are offside. Again loitering. That was Ian Jones. You have to be behind the last feet if you're not involved in the moral ruck.
I'll say the penalties start accumulating against the All Blacks, and it wouldn't be a statistic that they're happy with. Sean Fitzpatrick asking the question, but you don't have to worry about it, Sean. The referee's there. Now, it was being instructed on the ground by a Kiwi leg, and Jones was clearly in front of the feet of his last man, not able to play the ball, but did so.
So the score, Australia trailing by 2.
Tim.
And there you saw Ian Jones penalised again for loitering out in the Australian back. So it's a deliberate tactic to try and disrupt the Australians off the ruck and maul. Burke is 38 out. The crowd likes it, and Australia has hit the lead.
You didn't have to see it go through the post. You can hear the crowd on the other side of the field. What a change in this side. What a gutsy performance by these new young Wallabies. They're really having a go.
And that's a famous score too, 13-12. New Zealand won in 1985 at Eden Park by that score. Australia bounced back in 86 to win the first test by that score and lost the second at Dunedin by 13-12. You remember that one, Michael?
I remember all of those, Gordon. I was involved in all of them. Some happier than others.
Well, the Australian forwards over the last 15 minutes have really hit back powerfully. They've used their bulk and their explosion to batter the New Zealanders. Bowen. This is Osborne, just away from him. Osborne doesn't get the touch. Burke taking it Australian rules fashion. Into space. Mertens, lookouts, Little. Burke got in the way. Roth into Zenzanbrook. All Blacks have numbers, and they're ruled for a high tackle around Joe Roth's throat.
Now, what decision Phil Kearns will make here? Surely kick for the pace. Matt Burke strolling straight forward. Roth had to do well here. He had to stay in contact with the ball. He stepped back inside. Brooke was there, but too high. It was a good decision from Sterling. It's a great attempt at ball and all tackle by Brooke.
And I think credit there to Dave Brockhoff, the former Wallaby coach, your old coach there, Chris Handy, because Dave has been down at the Australian training as we watch David Campese warming up and getting the body height down. And that's exactly what he did here, but it was a high hit. Right round the eyebrows, that one. Very good decision.
You couldn't be a Bledisloe Cup match without giving Brock some credit. A lunatic coach. He is just all about body height and hitting hard. And I think if you're to simplify it, that's what it's all about.
So Australia producing a Lazarus performance here after being knocked out by 2 great New Zealand tries. Can increase their lead now to 4 points. Burke has certainly hit his straps, but not this time. 1 point in it, and just seconds remaining before the break.
Well, Matthew Burke's kicks have been going out to the right, maybe just sliding off it a little bit, not hitting through the ball, but that one wasn't far away.
Right into the sun. Manu goes down on the loose ball. Smith is in at halfback. New Zealand have pilfered. That's half-time. Australia 13-12. A big comeback by the Wallabies after New Zealand got away to 12-3. But what a try it was by Damien Smith, getting through 7 or 8 New Zealand defenders to bring the Wallabies back from the dead. Half-time here. Australia 13, New Zealand 12. What an exciting opening 40 minutes of football here at the Sydney Stadium. What an exciting opening 40 minutes of football here at the stadium. Australia leading by 13 points to 12. And there, the statistics on the first half, Chris Handy.
Well, look at that. The gold of Australia have really struck back. They started slowly and were 12 points down. They didn't have the possession, they didn't have the territory, but slowly but surely they turned that around. And they won all the ball in broken play. Line-outs are favouring them, certainly penalties are favouring them. And it's an area of the game the All Blacks will need to be careful about the penalties they're giving away.
And Michael Liner, a change in the All Black lineup.
Yes, Josh Cronfield's come on from Michael Jones. I thought Jones was one of the better. Cheer from the crowd you may hear there as David Campese's coming on as well. So that's certainly brought the crowd alive.
By divine intervention, I would suggest. So Campese is back for the Centenary Test as War takes the kick-off ball brilliantly. So Damien Smith appears to be off the field. And Campo is on against Jonah. It's David versus Goliath.
That's exactly the case, Gordon. Damien Smith injuring his ribs when he scored the try. The Australian medical staff gave him as much time as possible. He went up into the tunnel to see the doctor at half-time. He hasn't come back.
Here's Jonah. He's beaten 3. Campese tackled him. Brewer. New Zealand looking for another one. They're over, but held up.
Sensational start to the second half. Power play from New Zealand. Campese stood up and was counted. Brought Lomu to the ground, right down low around the ankles. But can they be stopped? They're pumped.
Mertens goes the short side. There's a move on here. This is Bunce. Burke's the tackler. Bunce! Yes! He's second. He got away from Matthew Burke. And New Zealand back in the lead.
Well, if he isn't one of the best outside centres I've ever seen, then I'm a monkey's uncle. Frank Bunce, any time it's put to him, he comes up with the goods. He's strong in defence, he's strong on his feet. He's taken on the defence here. He's got a half a break outside Burke and just made him look like a dill. Burke's come again. Jason Little's come again, and nobody can get a hand of him. He looks like he's strolling.
Well, the former garbologist, Frank Bunce, his favourite movie star is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he gave a real impersonation here.
He set up New Zealand's try last week. As Merton kicks the goal and makes no mistake there. He set up New Zealand's only try last week, and he's created this one. Well, he scored 2 tries here today, but he created this one all on his own. And we see Lomu breaking through everybody here at the Sydney Football Stadium, bar Campese. I think Matthew Burt was the one underneath the tackle here. Yes, there he is. Just holding a good tackle there, but just missed the one a little bit later.
So here we go from the kickoff. New Zealand hitting back strongly. Kearns hoping to fire up the Wallabies. A wild pass there. This is Bowen and Burke put under pressure, but he's cool. Osborne doesn't get touched. This is Merrick and Little. Merrick now. He loves to run. Well, not his greatest kick. Mertens looking to punish. Tim Horan. Very nasty bounce for him. He played a bit of fullback last week, and he shows the benefit of that experience taking play over the halfway line.
Well, a couple of poor executions by Steve Merrick have put Australia under a lot of pressure. Firstly, the pass was a shocker. Then the kick to nowhere.
Quick line out from New Zealand, taking a leaf out of Australia's book. Here he goes again, Little this time. He's beaten 8 tacklers. Here's Brook. Australia in disarray. 22-metre line, Lomu. Coming close to the referee. That was clever play. Gavin's there. New Zealand looking for their 4th try. Butts. Wilson. Rough in front. Osborne knocked on. Referee says it's okay. Well, some very vigorous and aggressive defence there from the Australians, and they get the scrum feed.
What a game. The crowd are right on the front of their seats. And look, the bandaged up Wallabies on the bench. Love to be on the field in the middle of the clash.
Australian scrum looking much more solid. This is Bowen. Nice purchase on that ball, taking play up to the halfway line.
He's oh so close to being charged down there, Scott Bowen. But a good kick, a good relieving kick from Scott. But gee, aren't the All Blacks piling on the pressure? Traditionally, the 3rd quarter is the one that sees the victor coming through, and New Zealand seem to be on top at the moment.
And that was Ian Jones that time. Quick clearance into space. Lomu's out here. This is Bunce again. Horan underneath. No one there for New Zealand. They were slow. There's a big overlap here. Wilson. Wilson. And Ross. 5-metre scrum. The ball carried over.
Well, what pressure. Bunce had scored his first try in the 1.5 minutes into the first half. And in the second half, 1.5 minutes into it, Bunce scored again. Now we see the pressure being cranked up by the Blacks. The scrum's low. They want this one badly.
Has a test match ever been played at this pace?
Quite incredible. Wilson doing wonderfully. Kept the ball in front of him down the line, and Little forcing it.
There's Basham. The goal line away to the left. 3 metres out. Crotfeld. He ran into a brick wall there in the shape of Warwick War. It was concrete.
He's having a huge one.
What a fantastic tackle by Warwick War.
Talk about Ili Tambua being the human skewer.
Josh Confield's having trouble getting up there. Deary me.
If Australia wins this game, they'll go back to that tackle. That was Topo Rodriguez on Hickory.
Josh Confield had about 5 metres of running there, and Warwick War just sat him on his bottom.
That was George Gregan on Jeff Wilson last year. And haven't some of the great performances been noted by big tackles?
Willie Offahingawe on Uli Schmidt at Newlands. Australia scrum struggling to hold on here, but they've been wheeled away by New Zealand, who wouldn't hold the weights, and it's a free kick. And they can kick this one into touch on the full. So Australia really wanting to absorb all the pressure from New Zealand here. They can't concede any more points. They trailed by 6. And they were hoping for a bit more territory there. Still inside the 22. Second half possession, all New Zealand. Brooke cleverly slipped it back on the 22. Australia interfere. Hands in the ruck. Right under the referee's nose.
That possession stat, really interesting, because New Zealand started the first half the same way, had all the territory, all the possession, and Australia clawed back. Very interesting that at the second half started exactly the same way. And I feel that Australia are hanging on by the skin of their teeth, but maybe this penalty was the best thing for them.
So New Zealand with a chance to go out to a 22-13 lead. They have it by 6. So Andrew Mertens. Joe Rock missed one here at Eden Park last week, but not for the young man, Andrew Mertens from Canterbury, the Ranfurly Shield holders. He's averaging 19 points in his test matches, and this is only his 8th. Point advantage for the All Blacks. Australian forwards must get some possession. Warwick War again. Mackenzie swept well. Horan. Campisi gets an early touch. Got it back to Manu. Again, players offside. Referee plays advantage. I think that'll be a penalty. It's a professional foul from Sean Fitzpatrick, getting in the way of the Australian scrum half and the fly half.
A very good decision by the referee there. I mean, they've been doing it every time there's a ruck, they do it.
There's the reserve referee or touch judge, Flip van der Westhuizen. But desperately needed points here for the Wallabies.
11-3 the penalties in Australia's favour. These errors are the reason that Australia drew close in the first half. We see the same scenario unfold.
Well, there's been only one team in it in the first 10 minutes of the second half. New Zealand almost piling on 2 tries. And if Jonah Lomu is Superman, where's Lois? Maybe he's on the field in the shape of David Campisi.
I don't know if Camper, I like being called Lois too much good.
Well, Lois is the only one that can snare Superman. And Matthew Burke has snared a 3-pointer for Australia. 6 points the difference.
That was a big kick from Matthew Burke.
Vital penalty for Matthew Burke. It's a high-scoring test match, 38 points so far. Mertens just going the 10 metres. War again, but New Zealand pick up the crumbs. Mertens, he does well. So composed, the former Joey's boy. Now on his left foot into space. Well, they wanted the touch there, Australia. Osborne, a big counter here. Here's Tim Horan. Still no touch, Brooke. But the mark is paid inside the 22.
And not since Gallagher paid for the All Blacks have they had a man that can run from broken play like Osborne. Dangerous when you misdirect the kick and give him the opportunity in counter-attack. He's a great link man.
Warwick War has played the game of his life here this afternoon. Eels back there with Jones. Brooke came away and got the rebound. There's a punch up on the ground. It's Ian Jones and I believe John Eales. Jones and Eales still at it. This is Lomu. Burke. And there was a real Donnybrook going on between Ian Jones and John Eales. The touch judge is in.
We saw it happen last week as well. Jones and Eales going head-to-head, and we saw in back play they again fought it out. I'm wondering whether the report from the touch judge will report on the incident, but here is where the action was. And look at this, Matthew Burke hitting him, letting him come through, and then working away at the ball. Good work from Jason Little to hold his progress. And Burke working away like a tight forward, trying to rip that ball away.
So John Eales being called out, so to Ian Jones. Let's see who started it, according to the touch judge, Wayne Erickson.
Actually, Gordon, it went on quite a while. A good little exchange between Jones and Eales. I'll give you the tip, neither are going to challenge Mike Tyson in the near future. The referee coming back to award a penalty.
Not to be condoned under any circumstances, but Australia with the penalty. And a popular decision here at the stadium. Campese. Well, there's some nervous kicking for the touchline at the moment, Michael Liner. We saw Tim Horan wobble off the side, and now Campese.
They're almost identical kicks there. Maybe just rushing a little bit. The pace of the game is pretty frenetic, and I think the kicking of some of the guys is following that. But at least they're going out. You know, pressure relieving penalty for Australia there.
Eales again. Little. He's cut out Burke. Confield there quickly. Australia that time were turned over in the tackle. Great defence, New Zealand. 5 from halfway.
And that was the best way to get back at Ian Jones for John Eales there, winning a beautiful two-handed line-out ball. That's the best way to get somebody back.
Good play from New Zealand, because when they pulled the man to ground, they pulled him over to their side. Now Australia penalised for muscling it back.
Now what's happened here, the referee awarded the penalty about 3 or 4 metres back towards the centre. The All Blacks have slipped it forward 3 or 4. The Australians are pointing it out, and it's being taken from the wrong place. No, is he being sent back? It's being taken from the wrong place. He's been taken back a couple of metres. I think the referee's onto it, but no point of penalty was taken there. So they've tripped a couple of metres. Gamesmanship from New Zealand, and they lead 22-16. Man is a freak goal kicker. Those extra couple of metres may prove critical here. The crowd has certainly vented its feelings. 56 metres out. He's got the distance, but not the accuracy. Campese. So Australia still trailing by 6.
It's like a hospital room on the sideline. Mike Brewer back onto the field after being blood-binned. Matthew Burke, the Australian fullback, with a nasty gash just on the top of his forehead. Pat Howard has gone on as his replacement.
And John Eales is off the field too. And there's Joe Roth getting the ball for Australia. Back now for Mertens. Australia a man down. Campese read it well. Doesn't get the touch. Here's Osborne. 10-metre line. Men in front. Horan. Lomu. No room to move. Australia with a chance now. Olo Brown the tackler. 10-metre line. Well control here for Merrick. Bowen. Charge down. Horan. Defensive work by New Zealand in defence has been first class. Will they go again here through Osborne? Merrick, the country captain. Look at him go! He was barreled 38 outs. Little's come into halfback. Australian scrum feed. What a match! What Centenary!
He's tough, Merrick. Beautifully positioned in centre field as Osborne tried to hook the ball back. And look at this, customarily as he does when he scored his try. Head down and covers up. He's hit 2 of the best tacklers in the game, Zinzan Brook and Frank Bunce, and come off better.
Here's Horan. He wants support. Little with good skills. He's broken clear of 2. Australia drive in. Gavin was there, so was Ward. Here they go again. Here goes Campese. Osborne wants the bounce. gets it. The crowd to their feet has won there. It's a nice long raking kick. Timmy Horan looking a little weary at the moment. He's done a lot of running. Was that a knock-on? I think it was. Referee says no. Here comes Manu on Brooks. Into space again. Basham. That kick off the side of his boot. This is Burke. Looking like a wounded Anzac. And Roth. Finally some sanity back into the game as it goes into touch.
God, we are exhausted up here just calling this game. Imagine being down there. It's going backwards and forwards and sideways. There's some huge hits. The Centenary of Bledisloe Cups. My God, I don't think there'll be 101st at this pace.
No one had ever lasted the distance. It's arguably the quickest international ever played. New Zealand still lead by 6. That was Dowd at the front. And Australia gets a free kick. New Zealand closed the line-out gap. You must have a metre tunnel. They closed it up as one. Australia clawing back here. This is Gavin. Into Fitzpatrick. Harthill did well. Bowen. Well, he hesitated. Australia have lost it. Australian players look to be offside there. All in front of the last feet.
Sean Fitzpatrick saying, slow it down. Stop. Let's just take the line.
Yes, well, certainly some players are down to a walkout there after 60 minutes of all action here at the stadium. 38 points scored. New Zealand leading by 6. Just inside Australia's half. Here's Bowen. Straight into Mertens. Manu was there. 10-metre line for New Zealand. Steve Merrick. New Zealand have pinched it. Now Australia gets it back. Knock on Australia, says the referee.
Well, that player's got to be bound. He called it a knock-on in playing advantage for New Zealand.
Osborne is away from Gavin. Tries on here for Brewer and Wilson. What a tackle by Roth. Australia hold the field. Manu comes. Lomu and Campisi. Lomu. Unstoppable. Will that be the clincher?
Well, that tells you just how hard this man is to tackle. Campisi came at him and he was able to stretch out of that. He went low. But then Little came at him in extra cover and he too couldn't pull him down. Campisi went down where you should. But Little, look at that arm, just snake its way out, bang on his shoulder and over.
Lovely pass from Andrew Mertens, cutting out Walter Little, who had Timmy Horan on him. And you just can't give this man the ball with space. He'll score every time. But Osborne making a great break from the centre field scrum early on, just with so much pace. And there was some good tackling by the Australians that held on from that. But this man from Counties, boy, just can't give him that much room.
So Andrew Mertens now could really hammer in a nail here. 11 points the advantage. This would make it. Delight from. So Australia needs 2 converted tries to actually hit them. And all smiles in the New Zealand camp. But there's still a long way to go. 17.5 minutes.
There is a long way to go, and especially as the game's been played at a cracker pace. And who knows what's going to happen in the last 10 minutes. We saw a lot of points scored in the last 8 minutes last week. I don't think the Australians are a spent force yet.
Well, they really had the ball when they get... They had it again there, and they've been penalised for being offside, so they really are making it difficult for themselves.
Yes, they don't need those sort of silly penalties down when they're on in New Zealand territory, particularly with this man Mertens, who puts kicks down like that.
Well, New Zealand has scored 4 tries to 1. They really have taken their opportunities, and Lomu has been devastating. Gavin at the back. Here's Manu. Big charge from Daniel Manu. Eels in at halfback. Kearns wading into the All Black pack. Australia needs to hit back with a 5-pointer. Little. And he didn't release. Australia lacking support there.
Good came, but they took out the men that were around the ball, but there wasn't anyone in there for Jason Little. He knew he was on his own. But you've got to release it, put it well back behind you. Can't lie with it underneath you. Pull down by Bunce. You can see him clearly holding onto the ball there and not getting away from it. Got to make some attempt.
There's quite a lot of All Blacks there. They certainly got there in numbers, but that's exactly what Australia need. Daniel Manu, Phil Kearns hitting it up at pace, making inroads into the All Blacks, and then just swinging it wide there to Jason. There was just, the defence was just too strong.
Yes, full credit to New Zealand's defence. It's been very well organised here this afternoon. The Australian midfielders had no room to move. New Zealand have created their space out wide. They've moved it quickly to clear territory. And New Zealand dominating the possession in the second half, down at the front. Clever work there, just towing the ball onto Kronfeld. Kearns the tackler. Mertens kicking too deep that time. This is Burke.
There's a chance for counter-attack there. Andrew Mertens was the only one coming through. They're still going to have a go with Campese.
Off he goes. Back to Manu. Here's Horan. Kearns is there. Australia still has it. This is Bowen. And again, we've seen it 3 or 4 times from the Australians in this half, sliding off the side. Australia really has to chance their arm now. 13 points down on the scoreboard. 14.5 minutes to go. They need a 7-pointer, a converted try. Frank Bunce has scored 2 for New Zealand. 1 to Mertens and 1 to Jonah Lomu. It's Little in midfield. They clean out well. Towed through by Kearns and knocked on by Osborne. Well, Australia needs mistakes like that. And they need their hands on the ball.
More pressure required from these loose forwards to force theirs.
Here's Merrick. Campese. He's beaten 2. He's beaten 3. Willie off a head go-away tackle without the ball. The referee missed it. That was unfair.
Willie Offengow is still down after that. Definitely tackled without the ball. We see Matthew Burke having a bit of a problem with his hamstring again. Might have just felt it go when he turned and pivoted to do that kick into touch. But Willie O's still down, still out of the line-out.
Line-out stats reasonably even, but that's not good enough. Australia must dominate possession now if they're to close this gap.
Willie Offengow played his first club game for Manly. Now you look at Offengow tackle without the ball by Ian Jones. It's good play if you can get away with it.
It certainly is, and he did get away with it.
But it was right in front of the referee. It's difficult to know how he missed it.
Australia really with it all to do now. Bovenbroek, Mertens. Here comes Lomu. He's away from Bowen. Wilson, another one for New Zealand. That makes up for last year in the opposite corner.
Well, they couldn't stop him this time, Jeff Wilson, but the man that created it again is Lomu. Came into the line and broke the tackle and created the problem with the defence. And then Wilson was just too good out wide. Look at it. Brings it up, just held that ball up, stormed into Scotty Bowen. Came outside Campese, went low and held on to him, but Little the length. Wilson too wide for Jason Little's tackle.
Beautiful pass here by Mertens. Look at that, holding it up, dummying to Frank Bunce and bringing in the steam train in Lomu, who just ran over everybody in front of him. Good pass under pressure there, both from Lomu and Little. And Wilson, I thought he was one of the New Zealand's better players last week and gets another reward with a try this week.
Well, Jonah Lomu was brought up on taro root vegetable and corned beef. Apparently they've sold out of taro root in New Zealand.
I'll have to get some myself, Gordon, I think.
Mertens from touch, just wide. So 34 plays 16. This is a very big lead for New Zealand. And deja vu for Jeff Wilson, getting New Zealand's fifth.
Very well constructed try there. It was a beautiful dummy by Frank Bunce coming back in, and a lovely soft pass to Lomu by Mertens.
Well, it would seem that Australia cannot win the game from here now, but they will give it everything. Here's Campese. He's beaten two, Merrick and Burke. We have 11 minutes to go. Little. Australia not able to let the ball do the work. Overlap. Roth. Joe Roth. He's beaten 4 players. New Zealand have really put it into space and created havoc. Manu, that was the wrong side. Daniel Manu shows his great strength and determination. What a charge. Knock back. Horan. Little knocks on.
Well, they're certainly having a go, the Australians.
Bob Dwyer there, obviously a little bit upset with that pass to Jason.
Great to see New Zealand back to the expansive game, Gordon. That's exactly what Laurie Main said at half-time. He wanted them to get back to an attacking game, and they've done just that in the second half.
Well, they blew Australia away in that opening 10 minutes, Dave. The Wallabies have held on manfully, but New Zealand getting possession. Here's Campese. And Kearns and Harthill. War! New Zealand spoil.
That's how they need to do it, through the middle. No point searching through the backs. They've had difficulty breaking the backline defence of the All Blacks. But in the middle, you've always seemed to think when War had the ball in hand or Manu was a chance.
Here's Little and Wilson, and Osborne's with him. Bunce. That was Little. Now it's Bunce. Beaten 4 and he lost the ball. Who's out here? Kearns is held without it. That's McKenzie. War! There's a chance for Australia. On the 22. New Zealand. Hold on. McKenzie. Tackling man there. Tried to hold it in. Bowen. Well, it was a bad pass behind Campese. What could he do? There was nothing on. And New Zealand all offside. Australia wants to crank it up quickly here. Merrick is there. Need to switch it back. There's no one out there. Little almost through. War! Hasn't he played his heart out, the big fellow? Merrick again. Merrick! Almost burrowing through. New Zealand doing their best to spoil it, and they have.
Unfortunately, if you can't get it back, the advantage passes to the other team. If you're going to have a dab, it's got to be a good one, and then you've got to get to ground quickly, let your support come over the top. And they've been there manfully. Look at him, the wild man from Borneo. Warwick wore the hair all over the place, but he has been all over the place. Inspired game from him.
Okay, the score here. It's 34-16 in favour of New Zealand. semblance of a victory chance for Australia lost. It's a matter now of by how many for New Zealand. They have it by 16, and they probably even run it from here. Bishop putting the ball into touch inside the 22.
Well, it just seems that it's a little lack of cohesion needed in the... Well, it's the problem in that Wallaby team when they seem to get on attack. They can't string one together with the next. Need good direction in the backs.
Here's Merrick.
Good general needed.
No advantage there for Australia. It's a free kick. Merrick goes himself. Here's Manu. Kearns. It's 8 metres from the goal line. Fitzpatrick in there spoiling. It's a penalty. They'll go again quickly here. Tap kick. Bowen. Manu. And you can see number 5 there, Brooke, trying to stop it coming out. Bowen. Tackled by Olo Brown. Again, New Zealand offside. They're over, but held up. Willie O. Yes! He scored Australia's only try last weekend, but with 6 minutes to go, it looks as though it won't be enough for the Wallabies.
This is better. Great, strong driving play by the Wallabies. Head down, it just wouldn't be denied, Willie O. One last week, one this week. Pitched it away, knew what he was going to do. They knew too, but he just kept skirting and sliding to the side till he found the gap.
So 5.5 minutes remaining. New Zealand with a 13-point lead. So still Australia needing 2 converted tries. You'd say it's an impossible task.
I certainly would think so, Gordon, but Australia is still trying and playing really well. It's just unfortunate that New Zealand have got out to such a big lead.
So Matthew Burke converting. Australia with 2 tries, 2 conversions and 3 penalty goals. Burke's tally 13 points. And Richard Lowe. And will he get a run in the Centenary Test? It looks as though he might. He's coming on the field, Richard Lowe. Not the best reception. And Craig Dowd is off. So Richard Lowe, New Zealand's most capped prop forward, is on the field. His 45th Test. Taken there by Harthill. Australia wanting another try. Little and Horan now. Back to Little. Merton's read it well. Here's a chance. Campese. Pass thrown forward. Lomu was coming down at him at 150 kilometres an hour.
Well, we talk about poise in attack, and that was an opportunity that time where the ball just had to be controlled. They had them shot to pieces in numbers-wise. Andrew Mertens had been trapped cleverly in the previous maul, and just had to shuffle it wide.
Well, there's a touch judge report here from Wayne Erickson, who refereed the Schoolboy International here at the football stadium in '92, which saw Jonah Lomu play and also Jeff Wilson, and Wilson scored an 80-metre try. Now Walter Little is penalised for standing on one of the Australians. It's a penalty 10 metres from the halfway line, 4 minutes to go. 34 plays 23. And it's a big touch finder just outside the 22.
Another opportunity here for Australia. Short line out. Willie O out in the back line with Daniel Manu.
New Zealand just out from their 22. Mertens. Didn't get the touch, Burke. Having a go. Quick hands needed. Little and Horan. It was deliberately knocked down by Bunce. The referee missed it. No, he didn't. And if it's deliberately knocked down, it should be a penalty, but the referee says no. It's a knock on a scrum fee, Australia.
That's the second time that's happened where an All Black has got in the way of an Australian pass and knocked it down, and the referee's only picked it up this once and given a scrum to Australia. It should be a free kick for mine.
Yes, the ball quite clearly knocked down. Basham offside. 2.5 minutes to go. Here's Merrick. Still going. But he passed to a New Zealander. Australia very brave to the end here. But New Zealand, with 5 tries to 2, have called the tune.
With that much drive going on, Stevie Merrick has happened a couple of times last week. That last pass going Australian. Maybe go to ground, he had the support coming directly from behind him. And they've been able to control that ball a little longer, but the opportunity to pick up a loose player and score is probably too great.
So Dowd, it seems, is hanging in.
Lowe might get a chance to be booed twice coming onto the ground.
From halfway. Less than 2 minutes remaining. It's been an enthralling test match. And the All Blacks are fitting winner here this afternoon. They've dominated the clashes between the two countries. This will be their 68th win in 100 internationals. And they've done it in the best possible style in this centenary clash.
Yes, they certainly have played well, Gordon. Their defence has been outstanding. Australia have won a lot of second phase ball, and really there haven't been too many breaks through it. It's just been outstanding defence.
Not going in the 5 metres, free kick for Australia.
One of the few referees that's picked up that ploy when they throw to the front of the line out.
Is War having a go again, charging into Brewer. He's made 30 metres. Merrick. Julio. Manu. There's been a lot of barging from the Australians. Merrick. And the referee says it was knocked down, I think.
Well, a little knock on at the base there by Steve Merrick, I think you'll find, Gordon.
Well, that was certainly a disappointment for the crowd.
Play by the forwards, running straight and hard.
Just coming out the same tunnel. Here's the countdown. 6 seconds to go. Will we get it in? The match triumphantly for Sean Fitzpatrick's All Blacks by 34-22. What a treat we had here at the stadium this afternoon. 11 points the margin for New Zealand, but the telling statistic, 5 tries to 2. A grand clash between these two arch Tasman rivals. New Zealand 34, Australia 23. Back with more in a few moments. And the New Zealand players just doing a lap of victory. Just a tremendous moment for Sean Fitzpatrick. That's Rick Salizo, their media and communications manager. But a very big New Zealand contingent here today. And what a spectacle we've had in the Centenary Test match. There's Jonah Lomu, who was in 4 of the 5 tries, and Andrew Mertens. Again, showing his fine skills. 3 conversions and a penalty goal, as well as that try, 1 of 5 for New Zealand. There are the final details. The All Blacks trailed amazingly at half-time. Australia had it by 13-12, but then they really stepped it up 2 or 3 notches and swept the Australians away. We now go down to the presentation and the Executive Director of the Australian Rugby Football Union, Mr. Bruce Hayman.
Mr. Phil Harry.
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. As Bruce has said, that was great rugby. And somehow the All Blacks and the Wallabies, every time they play, seem to produce a wonderful, spectacular game for all of us. And that was so fitting today, especially as it's the Centenary match. So I think we should give both teams a huge clap all together. Thank them. I congratulate Sean Fitzpatrick and the All Blacks for their fine win, and commiserations to Phil Kearns and the Wallabies. But I'd also like to say a few words to the spectators, both here at the ground and watching us on television. This is the end of the season, and in many ways it's the end of an era. Let me say this: that sort of spectacular, passionate game between 2 nations is something that money can't buy. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to present the Man of the Match Award, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Morgan, President-elect of Ford Australia, our major sponsor.
Thank you, Bruce, and ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to say that Ford is delighted to be involved in rugby as we are, and particularly delighted to be involved in the match today, which is the Centenary Bledisloe Cup. I have to agree with Phil Harry that congratulated the teams. I think they gave us an excellent match today, and certainly one that we could all enjoy. And now I'd like to ask Jonah Lomu to come up as the man of the match.
Jonah, well done. Do you want to say a few words? Would you like to say a few words? Yeah, why not? Well done, mate.
Firstly, I'd like to thank all the New Zealand supporters that's here today. Thanks a lot. We couldn't have done it without your support. And to all the All Black boys, you know, it was a 15-man game. This is yours. Thanks a lot.
Yes, well, Jonah Lomu.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for the Wallabies captain, Phil Kearns.
Yes, it was a very courageous performance from the Wallabies in the face of this blitzkrieg from New Zealand, spearheaded by Jonah Lomu.
It'd be a cold day in hell that we could do a victory lap at Eden Park, I can tell you that much. To all the Australian supporters here today, we thank you. It's been terrific, your support. And whatever happens in the future, we hope that you and the union support us. Thank you very much. To the All Blacks, well, what's that, 11 points in? 11 points in it, maybe not indicative of the score. Last week it wasn't, and this week it wasn't either, because you probably deserved to win by a few more. Will Lomu for sure. He was the difference between the 2 teams, and fantastic game, Jonah. You deserve the man of the match. To the Wallabies, we can take heart from the All Blacks. They had a pretty ordinary year last year, and they came back to be the best team in the world in 1 year. We can do the same thing. To both teams, enjoy the night, enjoy the future. Thanks very much.
Well, Phil, I'm not sure whether Nelson Mandela would agree with you.
To present the Bledisloe Cup to the New Zealand captain, Sean Fitzpatrick, would you please welcome the President of the New Zealand Rugby Football Union, Mr. Rodney Dorr.
I'd just like to say congratulations to the All Blacks, and you, Sean. This is one cup that didn't elude you this year. And thank both teams for an outstanding game of rugby, which we happen to have every time New Zealand play the Wallabies. Thank you very much.
Just on behalf of the All Blacks, to you, Phil, I'd like to say congratulations to you too. I can assure you the Australian team in the last 2 tests have been the best team we've played all year. And I think that's it's a credit to the way, it's a credit to the Wallabies the way the All Blacks played today. So the All Blacks, I don't know what I can say. I'm ecstatic. I'm thrilled, and I'm proud of the way he turned out today, and I'm sure we'll enjoy tonight. To the supporters here, to the New Zealand supporters, fantastic. It's getting back to what it was like at Concord. But to everyone here, I can assure you the All Blacks enjoy playing at the Sydney Football Stadium, and today you didn't let us down. The support on both sides was just fantastic. Thank you once again, and have a safe trip home.
Yes, the reference to Concord back in 1987, and New Zealand won the World Cup. They now have the Bledisloe Cup for 12 months at least. And of course in 1988, when they downed Australia in a 3-test series with that magnificent side led by Buck Shelford.
Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you all at real rugby again next year.
So it really was a sensational game of rugby here at the stadium. 34-23 to New Zealand in the Centenary Test. Yes, a pulsating game of rugby here for the Centenary. It ebbed and flowed. There was excitement all the way. 34-23 to New Zealand. And Chris, those statistics probably don't tell the story of New Zealand's 5 tries to 2 dominance.
No, they don't, and clearly they were the better team today. They went off in the latter part of the first half, and Australia clawed back wonderfully. They got more possession, they had more territory, and then in the second half, when Laurie Main said crank it up a pace, all of a sudden the All Blacks just came out so strongly, and they were prepared to let Australia win the ball in loose play, but their defensive line was outstanding.
Well, New Zealand really tore Australia's heart out in the closing stages. First it was Jonah Lomu through Campese.
Unbelievable, this bloke just can't be tackled. Damien Smith, go in low, David Campese.
Then Jason Little,
and he came through the middle of the packing this time, you know, put a beautiful ball set up for Jeff Wilson, who had a great try.
Yes, well, Jonah Lomu, he was just devastating out there. Phil Kern said he was the difference between the 2 teams. I don't think too many would argue with that.
No, I don't think so. He was clearly the outstanding single player on the field, but he got some great support from Frank Bunce. But I think Australia lacked a midfield general. I don't think that they varied the play sufficiently for the amount of ball that they got, and they paid the penalty for just aimlessly just moving it wide.
And Chris, does this mean you'll be taking up taro root vegetables for your main course?
No, I don't think I need to get any bigger, but I could do with his pace.
Okay, we'll be back to wrap up with Michael Liner after the break. Yes, and that makes up for last year, the tackle by George Gregan for young Jeff Wilson. But World Rugby salutes New Zealand for their great victory over the Wallabies here this afternoon. Now joining me is Michael Liner. They didn't really commit themselves a lot in the loose play, Michael, to the rucks and mauls. Australia won in that area, but their defence was too good.
Yes, we saw the statistics earlier that Australia won a lot of loose ball. They were winning it well, but I don't think New Zealand committed themselves too much because they were worried about Australia's running the ball in the back line, and their defence was just fantastic. It was so strong and devastating, and Australia didn't really make many inroads there.
All right, well, that winds up our coverage here from the Sydney Football Stadium. A great victory here to New Zealand. Just recapping the score, they got there in the end by 34-23, New Zealand scoring 5 tries to 2. And don't forget, on 7, we have exclusive coverage of the World Track and Field Championships from Sweden, August 5 to 13 with Bruce McAvaney. Check your local guides. On behalf of the commentary team, Gordon Bray signing off. Let the celebrations begin.